We're back with Marc Tilkeer, President and CEO of the Marathon Group of Companies, which includes BEI Hawaii and HT&T. So you were the auditor, and then you decided to go into this investment type of thing. What made you do it?
I was actually the auditor at C. Brewer, and then they offered me a job at BEI, and so I was the CFO there, and so I knew the business at BEI, and I was also one of the subsidiaries of BEI was HT&T, so I happened to be the CFO of HT&T, so I knew that business. And one of my partners was running HT&T at the time, so him and I, he's since retired, so he knew HT&T really well. I didn't know much about trucks at all.
So what made you think that you could run the company as opposed to just audit it?
Well, just apply business principles, I think. And I always wanted to run the company. And, you know, I had tried a lot of businesses when I was younger, failed at most of them. And I don't know, it was just something that said,
so let's talk about those failures, you know, some of the things that you tried, that failures, and what did you learn from it so that as you got older, you became wiser and you reached this success?
What did I learn? I learned that you shouldn't give up. I think you got to just keep trying. I mean, I think I always wanted to run a business, and I don't know, I just, I didn't have monumental failures. I mean, I just tried things and they didn't work, and I just went on. I mean, I always knew I'd do something, I just didn't know what it was, and you never know where it's going to be. I mean, my failures were, you know, applying for jobs and not getting them, trying small businesses and them not working, you know, spending a lot of money that I borrowed and having to pay it back. And what I learned was that, you know, small failures are okay. I mean, at least you're doing something. I mean, it's better to try and to fail than not try at all. And so, you know, and I always learned something.
What were the businesses that you tried, the smaller businesses early on?
Let's see. I imported bottled water from Austria, and I did this in the 80s. And I always felt bottled water was big, and so I imported this water called Vuslau. And I borrowed a lot of money and brought a lot of water in, and I was way ahead of my time. I wish I had done that now, and I had this North American distributorship for bottled water, borrowed a lot of money, and just couldn't make it work. Had nowhere to store it, and just I lost everything. It wasn't a lot of money at the time, you know, but I mean, relatively speaking, I mean, then it was a lot of money to me, and then a couple of years later, I saw that water in an airport, and I thought, man, I wish. But that was one. Another thing I tried was textiles. I imported textiles from Europe. It was Loden coats, and I subsequently found out that they were coats that the Nazis wore, and that was quite a business. I really liked the coats. I thought, oh, these are great. This is when I lived on the East Coast, and they were, I thought they were beautiful coats. That didn't work out too well. I tried a lot of real estate. They were, you know, compared to the real estate here, it was nothing. I mean, this was an area that was marshland, and now I go back there and see this land in southern New Jersey, and I mean, it's booming, and on the outskirts of Philadelphia, and I was way ahead of my time there too. And you know, back then it was, you know, so I was a pioneer.
So what'd you learn from those experiences?
I owe a lot to my dad. He bailed me out a lot. I was borrowing a lot of money, and of course he always made me pay him back, you know, at 18%. And I think I still owe him money.
What's the reason that you started going into business at a young age, taking chances and risks? What was your example?
I don't know. I just always worked. I always had a job. As far back as I can remember. I mean, I was always working. I just was always doing something. And I don't know who my example was, because no one ever sat down with me and said, you got to work or you got to get a job. I just always liked it. I always liked, you know, I always had a job. I was always working.
But it wasn't only a job. I mean, you're starting businesses. You're taking risks. You're looking for investors.
As far back as I can remember, I was doing something. You know, I was selling something. I was doing something door to door. I was working with the Boy Scouts. You know, I was just always doing something. I was always
like, what do you mean you're doing something door to door? What were you doing door to door?
I was selling Social Security cards, you know, that were engraved. I was selling flower seed, you know. I was selling whatever I could. I was always doing something.
And people would buy that?
Yeah, they'd buy things. And I was just always doing something. You know, I can remember having a job ever since I was little. And I don't know, I was just always doing something.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.